I'm the trapper that's caused all this to go on right
Can I
now.
say one comment about this? By the way, this whole thing, by the way, this is good. This is America. This is great. Everyone's out here talking tonight. We're doing this. But this whole thing is, I blame you, Phil. As far as I know, there's one guy trapping, and it's you right now, in a major way. Is that correct? Or
There's one other trapper, and he does not trap like at all on Grand Island anymore. I'm pretty much the only trapper on the island. So,
because there are two sides of the issue. And I just want to keep saying that because we are doing our best to balance both sides. Now, with regard to that, do you understand the other side's opinion a little bit?
I totally do. I would love a compromise to quiet these people and to have my own self-assurance. I will not be trapping on Veterans Park or any baseball diamonds. I'm not going to trap there. There are no animals there. I'm trapping where nobody is.
Have you ever been in a situation, by the way, I have not asked you these questions before, correct? These
No.
types. Have you ever been in a situation where you saw a coyote chewing its leg off or looking in a terrible position?
Never. I hate seeing animals in pain. The trap simply holds their foot. There's no pain in the animal. I could stick my hand in a trap, be there all night, and be fine in the morning.
Can't you change the trap to make it more strong and hurt somebody or pierce the skin?
No.
Not legally.
Not legally. Okay. Anything else to add?
No. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
We present to you tonight more than 1,215 hard copy and online signatures on the petition requesting a ban on recreational for-profit trapping on all town-owned lands. We realize that if such for-profit sport trapping is happening in our neighborhood where family, neighbors, children, pets, and horseback riders use the town-owned paper road for active and passive recreation and play, this then could be happening everywhere across the island where town properties are located. The town's solution of a selective legislation that parceled out safety that worked to protect only our neighborhood was not a progressive and forward-thinking solution. A specific and selective trapping ban resolution on one paper road section would not protect the entire community of Grand Island, so our initial request has been and always is do what is right for the entire Grand Island community. The public is asking you to ensure equitable and safe use of any and all town-owned lands. We want you to protect our pets from unnecessary injury and death due to traps. We want you to protect our natural ecosystems, and we want you to treat our Grand Island wildlife with compassion and respect.
Thank you. I heard in the invocation the word all 3 times. I just heard Mr. Billica say the word all. The definition of the word all is entire, every member, part of, the whole sum of people. When we talk of trappers and public land, they are part of that all. My son is part of that all. And when we're talking about public land on Grand Island, he has the ability to use that land just like anybody else who wants to walk their dog on that land, who wants to run on that land. In the gun hunting season, you have to be aware and know what's going on. So when the trapping season comes, you have to be aware and know what's going on. I love this sign over here to the left, Grand Island Animal Kill Zone. Look at the traps on that. Look at the teeth on that. How misrepresentative and misleading is that? Right to the point. We have just as many signatures. My son Josh has a website that has 4,500 followers to Trapper Nation. Do we want to call them in tonight? This is an action of somebody who wants to do something on public land that we all can use and we all have to respect. Thank you.
You're not marked. I mean, how do you know? And then I thought about if she got injured, who would pay the vet bills?
We are all, I am sure, concerned about the livelihood of our dogs, our cats, our pets. We're concerned about wildlife. We're concerned about many, many things. This law addresses one thing and one thing only that we need to focus on tonight. Not a conibear trap or the type of trap or where it was set up or was illegally set up. One issue. The issue is, do we believe as a community trapping should be allowed on public land that people have an expectation to be safe on? Or should it be allowed on public land? That is the focused issue that we should be addressing tonight. Because that's the law we're considering.
And the law that we're considering says that we want, so everyone's clear about what it actually says, we want to stop trapping of all sorts on town-owned property with the exception of property zoned as open space.
Why I'm against banning it along the town roads is many of those town roads are along rural properties. The property owner really considers that to be their land. And we're very uncomfortable putting restrictions on property owner land. And you can argue it's town land, it's the owner's land. The owner really does perceive that as their land, and I feel personally very strongly that the property owner, we shouldn't be restricting. And also, the recent election suggested the same thing with all the controversy about signs and everything else. I think the fewer restrictions, the better, as long as there's no safety concerns. We have yet to hear of any case, not just in New York or anywhere, where a human's been injured by a trap. In terms of injuries by pets, I heard one case today. So, I mean, I've heard of many cases where animals have attacked pets and killed them, but I've heard no case actually where a pet has been seriously injured and or killed by a trap.
And I wanted to just comment on some of the comments that Mr. Madigan made in terms of public versus private property. Perception of ownership is not the same thing as ownership. We have very clear public-private boundaries. We have surveys that identify exactly where those are. As far as I'm concerned, there should be no trapping on any public properties. The town's primary obligation is to protect the citizenry. That means people, their kids, and their property, their animals. By trapping, you're jeopardizing them. That's it.
Thank you.
What I'm concerned about is, trapping season's from what I've read, because I don't, I'm ignorant, okay? From October 15th to February 15th, okay? When you go walking out there, it's either chest deep in snow, except for this year, or it's knee deep in mud, okay? So the non-trappers have 8 months of time where they use the land, and the trappers have 4 months where they're the least desirable 4 months in which to use this land, which they're part owners, okay, just like everybody else. I'm concerned about tyranny of the minority by the majority, because in this room, it's overwhelmingly anti-trapping. I can see that.
I've heard a lot of, I don't want this and I want this. How about some kind of mutual solution where there is flagging, so if you are out there, you see it. I agree with Russ's statement about dogs. I got a yellow lab, 90-pound dog. She's not out running these woods without a leash on. It doesn't happen. And if she's out there running through it, gets caught in a trap, that's my fault, not the trapper's fault. Another thing, I'm fairly new to the island. About 5 years ago, I had 0 coyotes in my backyard. These past 2 years, I've had a pack of 13 running through. They have to be controlled somehow.
I give credit to these young kids that are trapping. They're not home watching video games and sitting in front of a TV all day. They know about animals. They know about what the animals do. They probably know more about what's going on in the nature of the wilderness than these things with their signs.
Things? I'm a human being.
You know, these signs.
Signs. Because I am not for this law. I don't want hunting and these kind of rights that we have as American citizens to be taken away from us. That's what I have to say.
But if you're coming in and saying, Nate, you're trying to endorse hunting and trapping all over the island, that's totally opposite than reality. We have to deal with reality. I just want to make sure everyone understands what the law actually says.
I'm speaking to the trapping on public lands is.
I'll read it again. No person shall hunt or trap within the boundaries of a park or any town-owned property located within the open space OS zoning district. Any.
I would like to go on the record as saying I'm in favor of the law.
Thank you. You know what? That's a nice person. I thank you for being so cute.
This is something that I've been spending a lot of time on. I want to start with the concept of what we're actually doing here tonight, which is addressing the question of trapping on public land, right? Specifically on public land. And so all of the discussion about whether coyotes are killing dogs is frankly irrelevant to this, right? What's relevant is the question of, should we have trapping on public land? What we've heard tonight and what we've seen in the newspaper, the Buffalo News, the article you didn't read, is that we have one person that's actively trapping on the island. And we have more than 20,000 people on the island. We're looking at public space where what you're talking about doing is using, and I'll use your words, we have cut out a sliver. We're making space for one person to continue to have the right to trap on public land. And now let me make it clear, that person just said that he's trapping on private land as well. So he would not be excluded from trapping should you make it illegal to trap on public land. What that would mean is he can't kill as many animals. And what it would mean is that he couldn't potentially make as much money, or however that applies in terms of what his justification is for trapping. We're talking about one person. We're talking about the interests of more than 20,000 people. People who use the land, we heard others just say, actively on these areas. And one of my biggest concerns is, coming here tonight, I expected a clarification of where we're actually talking about. I have looked at the law. I've looked at the maps. I've gone on the Grand Island website and I've seen multiple maps that show you what a park is. So there are multiple definitions in operation on Grand Island with regard to what a park is, at least in terms of the way the maps are shown. I can look at the paper roads and there's no indication what is a trappable land and what is not. I can look at the ditches and culverts and I don't have a clear indication from any of the maps on Grand Island what would be permissible and what wouldn't. So we're speaking very speculatively here about what actually would be permissible, right? And that's an extreme concern to me when we're talking about the issues of the interests of more than 20,000 people. So you can tell me that, you know, this is a small area. It's a relatively small slice. But I can't put that in context because I can't even look at a map and know exactly what we're talking about. When we take that forward, again, the countervailing interest of the one person is enormous relative to that. And so the alternative is what you brought up was, theoretically, the option of trapping at some point in the future makes it worthwhile to keep that open? Can I respond? Yep.
We're getting there. We're moving along here. Now, what you have suggested in the past is that I adopt wholesale a section of code that has been drafted by you, which is something that's never been done in the history of this town. We are desperately trying to find an answer. Now, you talked about special interest. I need to make this comment. I think it's fair to say. We're talking about, in the past, this issue was brought by you to the town. The town did everything in their power to post that area, even though there was no law preventing trapping on Grand Island. They made an exception to post that land and to say no trapping. Talk about special interest, that seems to be trying their best to beat this to meet a special interest. And now I want to say one more thing. Again, we are the only town in Western New York that I know of that has gone this far. It's number one. We're trying our best to try to meet both sides on it. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. This is not a major issue on the island. Frankly, I'm glad we're addressing it. I'm glad people are talking about it. But I think there's some reality to some of the comments that were made as saying this is a little bit of, you know, why are we arguing about this when there's all these other pressing issues on the island that are having profound impacts on people on Grand Island. I am simply trying to get to the point where I can move on to things that affect more people. Because the start of this, the genesis of this, was two families fighting about one pound of land. And I hope you understand that. I mean, when you say special interest, I hope you understand that we are trying our best to address this, and we are not playing games, or we're not playing bias, and we're trying our best to give you a responsive government. Now, this is blown up into this big issue now, and we're going to get into a resolution. But no matter what we do, it's not going to make everyone happy. That's just the way it is.
But the point that I'm making is that it also wouldn't exclude people from engaging in the activities that we're talking about to begin with. We're only talking about excluding it on public land, and that's an entirely different thing from the way this has been passed. The issue here is, should we be allowed to trap on public land? And that, I see no explanation tonight of why that's a justifiable process. When you're talking about the interests of 20,000 people versus the interests of effectively one.
There's two things you've brought up. I want to make sure I understand your comments, because they're good comments. Number one, you don't have clarity about what land.
Correct.
The second comment is that you still don't see a justification for allowing trapping.
On public land.
On public land.
Lethal trapping on public land.
Okay, I really appreciate it. And by the way, if it seems like I'm being hostile towards you, it's because we've had a lot of discussions. I do respect you. This gentleman is extremely well educated, extremely smart, and he and I have gone back and forth, and I do appreciate all the efforts you've made to try to educate me on this issue, so thank you.